Okay, Denver Broncos Mile High View, no commercial, no bullshit. We're continuing the Denver Bronco conversation, excuse me, and moving forward. Where is this organization going forward? Excuse me, hit the cough button. Take it away, Colby.
Um, I just want to put this out there. I've been a Denver Bronco fan since I understood football, and I really started getting into football around the Jay Cutler times when I started doing the X's and O's and started getting really ingrained into football. And this is the worst football I've ever seen in my life. Um, I have never seen a Denver Bronco team, and this is the total of the 5 years that we have continued this garbage. Six, I would say six. Of the complete garbage and the complete recognition of how unstable this organization is, and how we don't hold John Elway accountable, it just blows my mind. I was listening to sports talk radio while I was working today, and it's the complete hypocrisy of, oh well, we have to fire this guy, we have to fire this guy, and like that's gonna fix everything of this team. But it, like you have said many times, like player personnel has failed us mightily. It has failed us to the point where we don't have players that we can trust to stay on the field, number one, and we can't trust guys that can stay out of trouble. So at the end of the day, Denver Broncos country, I have a question for you. When are you guys going to hold John Elway accountable? When are you going to start holding him accountable and Matt Russell accountable, Joe Ellis accountable, the trust accountable? When are you going to start holding these guys from the top accountable? Because we can blame the coaches all we want, but look at the players that they're working with. I mean, this isn't this isn't chemistry here. This is basic stuff. So
Matt Russell, you'd have to love that job. I don't think half these people even know who Matt Russell is, and let alone what he does. This guy is like a ghost in the machine. He's a ghost in the machine.
Agreed. He's a yes man.
I don't. I'm being honest with you. I'm not even sure what his role really is. What he actually. I don't know what he does on a day-to-day basis. Matt Russell. I couldn't even fathom to tell you what. Handles John Elway's phone calls, gets his coffee. I mean,
Yeah.
I have no idea. All I know is the trust is there's a female attorney, I think, too, a part of that. I think there's a female attorney in there too, a big part of that trust.
And I want to bring this other point up. Everybody, I wasn't a big Vance Joseph guy, but did anybody watch the game last night? Because I have a quick question for everybody. Look how good Arizona's doing. I know that Vance Joseph isn't the head coach of that team, but he's the defensive coordinator. And I see the difference when Vance Joseph was the head coach of the Denver Broncos and how he's a defensive coordinator for the Arizona Cardinals. And it just makes you laugh. It does,
because I'm thinking of Fangio. We got like puppets, Elway's puppets out there. You want to throw the ball all over the place? Oh, I'll do that. Okay. Like a marionette, Because wasn't Vance Joseph basically just like he was a puppet brought out, and he would, well, this is what we're doing, and he'd just like Pinocchio or something. He'd just,
And like I'm sitting there listening to sports talk radio, and I'm listening to these podcasts, and I see the comments on them, and it just makes me laugh because it's like they have no clue what's going on.
No.
And I get it.
No.
And I
Well,
think
I just
there's
got a comment. I just got a comment recently, and it said, we got to just go through 10,000 quarterbacks. And I'm and I'm like, well, you got to stop being a quarterback serial killer. Number one. And I said, well, look, if Tom Brady went to the Jets, nobody would be singing the praises of Tom Brady. But Tom Brady didn't go to the Jets for a reason.
yeah.
Yeah, he went to an organization that's functional. And then all they needed to do, and at least I'll give the Tampa Bay this credit by putting the quarterback ahead of Brady, the guy before Brady, and building a team around him.
Exactly.
It's not always just about the quarterback. It's about what you do with the team. Mark Schlereth it sounded like I was up there. It was what we were talking about. He said that you can't have, he was talking about dysfunction. He says you have to have an identity. He says you have to, before you do anything, is decide what is it you want to do as an NFL team. What direction do you want to go, and then stick with it. And he was talking about going into all these different lanes, like a drunk driver, He said that's on Elway. I couldn't believe it. He actually said that's on Elway. And it is, and now you have everybody, he's got everybody trained that isn't thinking to think like him. Remember, well, I see Kansas City. And he was determined, Shermer or not. I think Shermer, again, you put out a puppet out there. So I'll get into Shermer in a little bit. I think that whole game plan was really inspired by John Elway. I think he's pushed Locke into, you're going to push downfield, you're going to push downfield, you're going to push downfield. And Locke's like, oh, yeah. I'll do that. And so they were just talking today about revamping the system to make it look more like Scandrella. But they were throwing to tight ends today. I mean, or not today. Yesterday they were throwing to tight ends. It was just complete dysfunction. And I'll get into Shermer, but I'll let you go ahead.
No, you're good.
But Shermer, I just want to say one thing. Before I really get into Shermer is, I want to go back to Elway. Isn't the hire of Shermer, in your opinion, just like another one of these bad free agents acquisitions, like the hot tub time machine king himself, the offensive lineman?
Juwan James.
Yeah, I can't remember his name because he's never around to remember. Mm-hmm. They're just paying him the king's ransom. But isn't Shermer essentially another bad free agent, another bad hire, another bad bring in? I mean, honestly.
To give you my honest opinion, I was never okay. So I'm gonna backtrack a year ago, and everybody wanted Rich Scangarello fired, including me. I'm not gonna sit up here and be like, oh, I wanted him to stay. I was one of those people that I'm not gonna be fake on here. I wanted him gone, but when Locke came in, I felt a sense of, okay, these two can work together in tandem. And the reason I say that is, the reason I say that is because everybody's talking about, well, he's pushing the ball downfield, he's forcing it, he's throwing too many interceptions, okay? After the Houston game, I think Rich Scangarello knew how to work with Drew Lock to the point where he knew that, hey, Drew, you can't always push the ball down the field. And you saw in the last 3 games, his numbers weren't great, but the teams that they were facing weren't great either. But I saw improvement to the point where Drew Lock wasn't always taking shots down the field. Yes, we didn't have a lot of talent on that offense, but I think Rich Scangarello knew how to utilize Drew Lock in a way that Pat Shurmur can't, if that makes any sense. So, bringing in Pat Shurmur, I think that was a direct correlation of, hey, look what Kansas City did last year. Look what Kansas City has done the past 3 years under Patrick Mahomes. So, we can't, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, I wish Scangarello was still here. But the reason I believe in Rich Scangarello the one thing I believed in him was, I think that everybody was misconstruing where him and Vic Fangio weren't getting along. I think it was John Elway and Rich Scangarello, now that we both have more factual information about what has gone on in this organization. So it's a matter of, okay, Pat Shurmur, I went back and looked at when he was fired, and me and you've been talking behind the scenes about this, and I went back and listened to some podcasts up there in New York, and they're basically saying the same thing we are. He didn't adapt to his players. He kept running the 3 wide receiver sets, a.k.a. Mike McCoy. So, yeah.
Overly complicating and not simplifying.
Yes. And I don't think Pat Shurmur knows what, like, there are points in a game where he knows what he's doing, but it's just it's so little. It's so little. It's just mind-boggling. You're gonna this is exactly what I'm gonna bring up. You're gonna do a flea flicker. What are we in 1970? Like, seriously.
Well, hey, the New England Patriots did it, right?
Yes, but they had more success because they had an offensive line. We don't have an offensive line.
No. Well, you got goofball. Oh, you know what? This was brought up by Orlando Franklin. I thought was interesting. He said that flea flicker probably was practiced with Lindsey and not with, but Shurmur didn't have the sense to say, I can't let Gordon do this. You know, and they were talking about how Shurmur refuses, and they brought in Nate Jackson of all people. He said a lot of interesting things. I had to laugh because it was Nate Jackson of all people. But Nate Jackson said a lot of interesting things. He was talking about Shurmur just can't seem to stick with what works, and he wants to do all this stuff that you do during your practice. You know, instead of sticking to works and going off on tangents, you know, play calling tangents. But I want to say something about Scangarello and the firing and go back. Now I'm going to go back. For me, it was confusing. I didn't have a concrete feeling one way or another about Scangarello, but it just seemed immediately odd to me, this conflict that was going on. That I kept thinking and hearkening back to, why this was going on. It's like, I can't imagine Fangio, this being strictly a Fangio Scangarello thing. It has to be something between him and John Elway. Didn't know what it was, but like you said, now we're seeing what Elway wants to bring here. Looking again, I see Kansas City. Maybe I see Peyton Manning back in the day with Mike McCoy, myopically. Okay. And maybe it was with Scangarello's like, look, saying what we were saying, so you can't implement this right now. You don't have the player personnel. So what did they do? They fired him. They got all this brash core receivers that came in. That was going to save. And Elway's Elway looks at things like pieces on a chessboard. He doesn't look at the bigger picture. I think Elway's starting to learn. There was more to running a football organization in the mold of Pat Bowlen than just acquiring chess pieces on a board. You have to have a good organization before you put those chess pieces. You got to get the right chess pieces, and then you have to figure out what the strategy is.
Yep.
Or figure out the strategy, and then the chess pieces that would fit that strategy you're going to run. Elway just he hears names. He sees, like I said, he sees a team like, he sees Mahomes, right? He sees Peyton Manning. He doesn't get that overall what it takes to make an organization a winning organization. And it's like the people that say, just get 5 quarterbacks in until one, throw spaghetti on the wall. We'll see what sticks. When there's you didn't decide which system you're going to run for that quarterback, scouted for that quarterback. There's so much more than just grabbing a guy, a pitcher. This isn't like baseball. If I just load up pitchers, because baseball is basically, it's different. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry to cut you off. I just want to bring this up. Everybody's on the Justin Herbert train, and everybody's not recognizing that what he has around him to have that type of success. Because I compare Justin Herbert to a little bit of Drew Lock, but I think Herbert has a stronger arm than Lock. But the reason why he's having so much of the success, because look at the pieces, like you've said, but look at the bigger picture. Look what he has around him. Okay, we all know the Chargers have been a mess under the Spanos family for years, but at least they have a general manager that gets it. And at least they have a general manager that understands talent and understands the bigger picture than just pieces like Elway.
Yes, the San Diego Chargers have been getting a lot of praise from agnostic NFL analysts, people that don't have a dog in the fight. They just look at, different teams and explain, who's doing what, why. But the San Diego Chargers have gotten a lot of praise for their player personnel acquisitions. Matter of fact, I think Gordon was a great example. Cutting ties with him was just a perfect example why they're a step ahead of the Denver Broncos, organizationally speaking. They see, just like now Miami, and as dysfunctional as they are, they could see Juwan James they had to get rid of him. Unfortunately, the guy running the show is just can't get it right, and I just don't think Shermer was the answer. When John Elway decided to go after Shermer, I was just confused. I just like, I'm looking at Shermer and I'm thinking, I can see this is, I could see he can see Kansas City. But Shermer was, and Mark Schlereth said this too, and I made a whole video about Shermer being middle of the road. If you took his highs and lows, what it boils down to, and now he's on another low, is basically he's just a middle of the road offensive coordinator. There's nothing special about him. Nothing in my opinion that warranted changing the lane again, going in a new direction once again from Scangarello. Scangarello was play action. Okay, now you're revamping the whole system again. Okay, so scouting now. Okay, now we scouted for the 3 receiver set, so we got all these receivers. Now they're talking in sports talk radio about, well, we got to scrap that and get back to what Scangarello was doing. It's all over the place.
And there are some outlets that are starting to get it, but you guys are too late. This has been going on for years. I know that there's some sports media outlets that are starting to understand, and I don't think that they're being as John Elway pro as they used to, and they're starting to understand, like, hey, this is not just coaches, players. This is top management level stuff that's going on here. Because in good organizations, they don't let bad decisions creep into locker rooms, creep into the coaching, creeping through the environment and you see the good organizations that have succeeded over the years that don't let that crap phase them and don't let that stuff creep into the organizations. Okay, this has been happening for 5-6 years, and I brought up a point to you earlier today that everybody's saying, well, we just got to give Elway a little bit more time because what he did in 2013 and 2014, bringing in all those defensive players, and I've already seen that on Twitter about how, oh, well, it's kind of the same thing, but it's on the offensive side now. We're not bringing in as much defensive players anymore. And I'm going to tell people this. Well, you still have Pat Bowlen, who was kind of running things a little bit, but you had Wade Phillips from that tree, okay? He's a Pat Bowlen guy. Wade Phillips is a Pat Bowlen guy, okay? And you had Peyton Manning, and Pat Bowlen signed that guy, and you had Peyton frickin' Manning. Nobody was going to come and play for the Broncos if you Case Keenum, Trevor Siemian, Paxton Lynch, all these guys. Peyton frickin' Manning influenced those free agents in 2013 and 2014 to come here. That wasn't Elway, and people need to get over that. People need to start recognizing that, and Broncos country doesn't. And it's sad because we're Brown fans.
Well, we can test that. We can test that. There's no way that Elway would have ever got Tom Brady to come to the Broncos.
No.
Yeah. So So at any rate, that's the test of the issue of was it Elway or was it Pat Bowlen? There's no way that Tom Brady, in any stretch of the imagination, would come to the Denver Broncos. No stretch of the imagination would that ever happen. But if you're telling me that it was all Elway that brought all these players in, not Peyton Manning, well, then you could make the argument then why didn't Brady come here? Why was Tampa Bay so much more enticing that Elway
because
didn't
they have
bother?
stability.
That's what?
They don't have the clown circus like Denver does.
No.
They don't have the clown circus that Denver does. They have a good head coach in Bruce Arians. They have a good general manager. I don't know the name. And they at least have an owner. We don't even have an owner. And we don't have general manager. I don't consider Elway as a manager because he's player operations and general manager. He's holding 2 titles. Like, people, get over yourself. Elway, it was a great player. Don't get me wrong, but as a GM, he sucks. And you guys had to run Adam Peters. Exactly. You guys had to run Adam Peters out of town for John Elway. Are you kidding me? Look how good San Francisco is. Look at the player personnel they have brought in under the tutelage of John Lynch.
Peters? Who brought in Peters?
Pat Bowlen.
Who brought in John Beek? I believe Pat Bowlen did. He may predate him, but I'm pretty sure Pat Bowlen brought John Beek in too.
And people, stop giving Mike Shanahan all this credit too.
Yes.
Seriously.
Yes.
Seriously.
Yes.
Like, come on. Mike
Yes.
Shanahan was a good head coach, but he's like Elway as a head coach. He's selfish.
Oh yeah,
He's egotistical.
yes, he had a big mural of his face on the wall when you walked into. Yeah, that right there is all you needed to know. The ego had landed with Shanahan.
And Pete, Bronco fans, I'm going to keep harping back to you guys because you guys say you're loyal Bronco fan, and I get it. You guys are loyal, but when you guys are going and feeding this narrative that we need 5 quarterbacks to save this franchise, that we need to change coaches year after year after year, head coach. And by the way, Vic Fangio is a damn good coach. And
yeah.
I've been hearing that, his defense gave up 43 points. Right there, you have no idea what you're talking about because Vic Fangio is playing the Chiefs, special teams, and offense.
Yeah. Well, they didn't give up that many points because Locke threw a pick 6. The McManus punted or kicked to a guy for a return. That's 14 points right there.
Cleveland.
Yeah, Cleveland. Tyree Cleveland muffing the. Yes, once again, player personnel. Here we go, talking about player personnel. So, also the myth that how many times did Mahomes get put on, a short field? That wasn't the defense.
Exactly. That's what I was about to bring up too.
Exactly. Yeah, that wasn't the defense. So let's stop. But I will say this. Maybe I'm giving the defense more. Maybe I'm loosening up my grip on reality a little bit because some people, and I think Schlereth had brought it up, that the Chiefs' offensive line had more starters out than I thought. I thought it was only 2 starters, but apparently it was more than that. Like most of their offensive line is backup. So obviously, in a snowy situation, you want to be a bit more conservative. Now, if this was a nice sunny day, God only knows, and also I mentioned that Boye, this is another one of my concerns, was Boye going to ever no, they had to completely take him off of Hill, and put Callahan on Hill because Boye wasn't even not even in the ballpark with Tyreek Hill.
I'm going to talk about Boye real quick. That was a disastrous trade. I was never a big fan of the trade. I wanted Ronald Darby from the Eagles.
That's what I said, Ronald Darby too.
Okay.
Because I knew that he could, if he could stay healthy. But the one caveat was him staying healthy. But if he's healthy, he can match up with Tyreek Hill. He's one of the corners that can. So I had put that out that I wanted Darby.
Exactly. And I thought And I thought Bryce Callahan actually held his own pretty well on Sunday. I'm not saying that Bryce Callahan's the best corner. That's a Vic Fangio player there for you, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Okay? Justin Simmons and Kareem Jackson, I'm not as high on them as most people are.
Jackson again missed tackles. He missed
Justin
tackles
Simmons
again.
as well. Justin Simmons is the most overrated safety in the National Football League, ladies and gentlemen. Stop saying he's a top 5 safety. Stop saying that.
Yeah.
And Broncos country. Can we stop with the hypocrisy that Tom McVay's at fault here? Because when you don't have good player personnel and when you don't have good players on special teams, because that comes from drafting and smart player personnel decisions, you're gonna continue. You're doing the same thing on offense that you are on special teams. You're just continuing to push these coaches out of the door. Like, come on. Like, oh, Tom McMahon, he needs to be fired. Agreed. Like,
Agreed.
And all you feel good Denver Bronco fans, can we please stop with that hypocrisy? I'm sick and tired of these Denver Bronco fans saying that, oh, well, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer here, but where's the light at the end of the tunnel? I don't see one.
Well, that's all
now.
Well, remember that what Bronco fans will not concede is that the 2 wins they had, the Denver Broncos right now could have easily been winless. They could be. Yeah. Is there a team winless out there right now?
Jets 0-7.
0-7 Jets. 0-7.
They could be right there with the Jets.
They would have a win. They almost had a win. It was against the Denver Broncos.
Yeah,
they were that close.
Do you think the Seahawks, the Cardinals, the Chiefs, the Patriots, the Seahawks, do you think they would have that game close? No. But again, nobody likes to bring up the fact. Coaching. Oh my God, I hear this all the time. Coaching. How about player personnel, players that are on the field that are second string, third string players. Okay? I don't care.
Yeah, well, some of it is coaching because Elway, just like he picks bad players like Shermer, if you want to say, but bottom line, it all boils down to management. It all boils down to the person that's making the decisions. If you don't like the coaches, who picked them? Who picked the coach? So what you're telling me is you don't like the coaches. You don't like the coaches, so you're going to have the guy that picked the coaches you don't want to pick more coaches.
Thank you. I mean, that
makes no sense.
That's great. That is 100% true. Like, seriously. Like, come on. Like, like Vic Fangio brought these coaches in. I'm hearing that now. Are you serious?
I am very shocked. I'm still shocked that Vic Fangio took this gig. Because I'm like,
he got duped.
Yeah, well, yeah.
He got duped because you had Von Miller and Bradley Chubb.
Maybe so.
You had Von Miller, Bradley Chubb, who, by the way, Bradley Chubb is starting to get better. Not a lot of people like to bring his name up. Everybody thinks, oh, he still's hurt. Like, seriously, that guy plays his ass off. I love Bradley Chubb.
Yeah. It's just I thought yes, and again I thought the defensive performance was at least it made the Broncos not a complete joke. Not a complete joke.
When you hold Patrick Mahomes to 1 touchdown, I don't care. Everybody says Patrick Mahomes is God. But when you hold Patrick Mahomes to 1 touchdown and it comes in the third quarter, and that's what I'm talking about. Like, people don't like to give Vic Fangio credit. I get it. The offensive line wasn't great.
Now, Mahomes did march down on his opening drive. Mahomes did march down on his opening drive, but they got shut down after that. And you know what was iconic, in my opinion, was Mahomes on the sideline. I think it may have been around the time of the I don't know I don't know what they were trying, the flea flicker they were trying, and Mahomes just sitting there on the sideline, just going like this, just looking and just shaking his head, just
Because
shaking his head. So looking
like,
on and just like a lot more like disbelief, not in like a funny way, just like like he just can't even believe what he's saying. That's how bad this game was.
Players aren't stupid. Nobody wants to come and play for this franchise because it's a clown show.
It's a clown show. Yeah,
you see.
You need little cars. Drive around in little cars.
Oh my gosh, you see it every time we face teams. They laugh at us. Even former players, they laugh at us.
Yeah.
Oh well, it's Vic Fangio's fault. It's all you see the players that he's working with? You've got to be kidding me.
Well, like I said, if they don't like him, Shermer, and personally, I'm not big on Shermer, but you're going to trust the guy that picked the coaches you don't like to pick more coaches?
I don't. Drew Lock has regressed.
Yeah, he's regressed.
Like you said, they're going to ruin him.
Well, see, that was John Elway arrogance again. Because Scandrella was working with he was the quarterback whisperer, right? Scandrella. And he was working with, but nobody's admitting this yet. Nobody's admitting. Scandrella could work with Locke, and Shula and Shermer are making him worse. His footwork.
Exactly.
His footwork is all over the place.
Exactly. I encourage people to go back and watch last year's tape when Rich Scangarello was offense coordinator after the Houston game, because that tells a lot about what he did as an offense coordinator with Drew Lock at the helm, ladies and gentlemen. I don't care what type of talent, what type of teams they were facing. Just look how more comfortable Drew Lock was under that system than the Pat Shermer system. But, we're going to have Denver Broncos fans. Well, you guys were giving Pat Shermer a shot. You guys wouldn't. Like, seriously, I said it from the very beginning. We both said it after the Titans game. This could be concerning. And it's you guys were agreeing with Pat Shermer day one. You guys were not criticizing him. Bullshit. So I don't want to hear that on the comments.
Well, I've got it. That's why I got a channel. I've got. They go back in my archive. They can see where I was saying that I didn't think Shermer was the answer. My biggest complaint about Scandrella was his defending Joe Flacco. His saying that he wasn't immobile when I knew he was immobile.
But do you think a lot of that had to do with Elway? Come on.
Well, because who brought Flacco in? It wasn't Scandrella.
It was Elway because he thought he was still in his prime. See, that's what we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen.
And where's
go back and watch
now? Where's Flacco?
Yeah, exactly. He's a backup in New York.
What's New York team?
Jets.
The 0-7 Jets. So that tells you how much Elway. Yeah.
So if all you feel good Broncos fans want to keep harping on, we need to fire the coaches. We need to get 5 quarterbacks till we find one. How about you go back and watch the press conference when John Elway brought in Joe Flacco, and now look where Joe Flacco's at right now. Seriously, he was never in his prime. You gotta be kidding me.
Now, what was I gonna say? An owner, to make a good owner, a good GM, you have to check the ego at the door. You can't have an ego.
Thank you.
If Elway could have humbled himself, he would have said, if we're going to get Case Keenum, we're going to have to get somebody that runs a system like what they have in Minnesota. So he would have maybe done everything he could to get Kubiak to stay. I don't know what role Kubiak is in Minnesota.
He's OC.
Yeah, OC. Now Kubiak wasn't there when the whole Cousins deal was made. Okay, I wouldn't have ever signed Cousins to that.
But Sports Talk Radio wanted us to, that nobody likes to bring up.
Oh God, I know. I mean, look at those feel-good fans. All those feel-good fans wanted Cousins too. That's the people that are squawking. Those people. They want all these quarterbacks to come on. They're the same ones that wanted Cousins. Okay.
They're the same ones that wanted Phillip Rivers. They're the same ones that wanted I can't remember who else. But you wanted Phillip Rivers and Kirk Cousins, just to name two off my head. Are you kidding me?
That's because they're names. Just like Gordon, they're names. Just like Juwan James, they're names, right? They're names. That's all I know.
Adam Pac-Man Jones.
Yeah, names, exactly. Because they're names. You know? But if Elway had been humble, he would have said, "Look, if you're going to stay, if I can get you to stay, we'll, even long enough that we can implement a play action system." We have to decide on a system. Okay. Not Mike McCoy. Who was Derek Carr's coach? Musgrave, right? Musgrave. Well, Musgrave is a pocket quarterback. He runs a pocket quarterback system. Wide outs, well, that's all fine if you got the quarterback to do it. But you can't bring Case Keenum in. I mean, it's like I've got a cart and I've got a boat and I've got a pig, and I'm going to try to put them all together and see if we can make something work, right? See if we can get down the road or whatever. Mm-hmm. It was just a mismatch of parts that had no business being put together. Now, what would have been nice actually if Kubiak could have taught Kubiak staying to say, look, at least let us get your system implemented, and maybe you can help us bring in a head coach and maybe some other people. You can work behind the scenes or whatever. We'll bring Case Keenum in. He can be a good bridge quarterback until we can get a Drew Lock or something like that, and we can build a team around. We can start putting all the pieces together. We can start a scouting department. We can scout for the system. We can start, building off the defense that we've done with Chubb and the rest, and we'll start getting offensive linemen, start to get our lines built back up, and we'll start to be a more stable organization. Fine. Keep Case Keenum. That would have been fine. He would have been fine as a bridge quarterback. Mm-hmm. Would have been fine. Mm-hmm. But you should have went in with that mentality. Not, well, we'll take this guy here because he's a name at that time. He was a name. We'll take this coach over here. We'll just stick with him because, we have him. So we'll just stick with him. It never. And then Vance Joseph. Okay, you be my yes man. The whole thing was just doomed from the very beginning. And I didn't have the channel then, but that's what made me think, because I wrote, that there's just no way I said they've killed Case Keenum and he hasn't even got here yet. He's already a dead man walking. I said that. He's a dead man walking. Well, we'll just get a quarterback. Tom Brady couldn't help this organization out. And I could tell you right now that it would probably be the butting of egos and heads and everything. It would probably be a very volatile situation.
And nobody likes to bring up by the end of Peyton Manning's tenure, John Elway and Peyton Manning were already butting heads behind the scenes. Nobody likes to bring it up. Everybody thought it was Kubiak and Manning. That's bullshit. Sorry, that's bullcrap.
Well, some of it was because Kubiak wanted him to run play action, and Manning was like,
"That's not what."
Well, why is that?
Manning does.
What's that?
Like, seriously, what you just laid out about how, okay, you should have brought in Keenum, you could have brought in Locke or somebody else for that bridge quarterback, bring in the system that fits these quarterbacks, scout the quarterback, get the quarterback that fits the system that you're running. It doesn't matter about his talent level. It doesn't matter about his arm talent. All it matters is up here and if you can run your system. That's number one. Number two, start building your team from the inside out. Be smart with the players that you bring in. Don't bring in names like Joe Flacco, Adam Pac-Man Jones, Domata Pecco, all these other. Start bringing in the likes of Darby if healthy, Bryce Callahan. That's turning out to be a good move. Jacob Phillips, the guy that you wanted. Joel Sherwood, two guys that would fit perfectly in the system. But Elway, no, we're not going to do that. We're just going to pull coaches off a coaching staff that have no idea what they're doing. We don't have the player personnel that can do this. But you're going to go out and get Joe Flacco and says that he's mobile. That's ridiculous.
Well, see, this was the problem with Elway and Manning and Kubiak is that you have Kubiak, who's a play action system quarterback or play action system offense. You have Manning, who's a pocket quarterback offense. You have Elway that wants to run a Mike McCoy offense, right? He's got that vision again. He's got that vision. And it's a sum of parts that don't work. You have, you can't keep Kubiak because you can't ask Kubiak to be a pocket quarterback when that's not who he is. You can't ask Manning to play action. It was a bad situation all the way around, and Elway was involved in the whole thing.
I have a question for you. Would you have fired John Fox or kept John Fox?
Well, it depends. After that, well, this opens up a whole nother. There's Adam Gase that goes on with this. Again, you're talking about moving parts. It's more than just
exactly.
A cup.
Yes.
You know, there's a lot of good. Well, you got rid of Gase too, Adam Gase. Mm-hmm. You know, and again, there's something you definitely know that was a volatile situation. Gase and Elway.
No, Gase hates Elway.
Yeah, well, he isn't the only one. I mean, there's a lot of people that hate Elway because he's just screwed so many people over. I'm not even sure Peyton Manning really gives two craps about Elway.
In my opinion, what I would have done was I would have kept John Fox. I would have brought in an offensive coordinator that can learn under Peyton Manning because Peyton Manning was your offensive coordinator to begin with. I'm tired of everybody saying that Mike McCoy and Adam Gase helped Peyton Manning. It was Peyton Manning calling the plays. It was Peyton Manning calling the plays at the line of scrimmage. Go back and watch the tape. But what I would have done was I would have kept John Fox. I don't care about the losses he had, but at least he still had stability in that coaching room. Well, I still would have kept.
John Fox is kind of like, if you think about him, John Fox is kind of like our coach, our head coach. He's defensive minded. And it's the same setup. I mean, what you see now is the same setup that was with Elway. He's got a defensive-minded head coach. There's this offensive world that's turning outside of Fangio. Fangio's got his galaxy here with the defense, maybe special teams, but they had a whole offense. There's a disconnect, and that's kind of the way I think that Fox was, how they were running it when Fox was here. I think Fox was primarily focused on defense, and Gase, McCoy, all that was on offense. It was that was their show.
And I liked it.
If I remember the press conferences correctly, and what was said is, it was pretty much kind of a hands-off head coach with the offense under Fox, and this is what I'm seeing here. It's that same setup, same setup.
And they tried that with Vance Joseph. That didn't work out because Vance Joseph was a yes man.
Well, don't you think that Elway is the head coach of the team? I mean, think about it. Yeah, Fangio's the defensive coordinator, and Shermer and Shula and all that is the offensive coordinator. And I think that's why it wasn't Fangio bashing heads with Scangarello. It was head coach, GM Elway bashing heads with, and again, trying to protect Elway's name and his reputation. They wanted to say, oh, this is a Fangio thing. Well, what about Vance Joseph too? I mean, Vance Joseph, in my opinion, was not even involved in anything except he was like a PR spokesman, a PR rep. What do the police have? They have a spokesperson that comes out. It's like that.
He was good.
That's all he was. Yeah, that's all he was.
He was good at wearing nice suits from time to time, but that's pretty much it to look good on the sideline.
Well, I called him Coach Soundbite.
Yes.
I called Vance Joseph. I called him Coach Soundbite because that's all he was. He was a soundbite.
But going back to what like, I'm not confused. It's just frustrating because me and you can see this, but Broncos country is just so they're not even thinking about Elway. They're thinking about Vic Fangio, Pat Shurmur. And I kept hearing this when they brought in Shurmur. That was like, okay, you know what? I think Elway's doing that thing again. Where you know what he said? Well, Vic Fangio is going to focus on the offense, or Vic Fangio is going to focus on the defense, and Pat Shurmur's going to focus on the offense. Like, really? How is that going to work? You guys are trying to push this narrative that is just, it's blowing up in your face like it has always done. Rick Scangarello was probably the best offense coordinator in the past 4 years that we've had offense coordinators. I'm sorry.
That's kind of scary if they think about it.
That is.
That's kind of scary. He definitely had a beat on things. He definitely probably told Elway what he didn't want to hear, the truth. And they're worse off now by far.
They are. This team has been set back 10, 15, 20 years. This team has been set back at least 20 years.
I think this was in the making. Even a year before they won the Super Bowl, this was already in the making, but nobody saw it. Nobody saw it, and that's why it just crashed so fast.
I don't see any top-tier free agents that want to come play for Denver. They're all going to Oakland. They're all going to Kansas City. They're all going to Seattle, Pittsburgh, wherever, because we're a joke.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. 2 years, the team is going to be sold because the Bolins will not will not agree that Brittany is going to take the reins. As a matter of fact, the majority of the shareholders said we do not want. The only one pushing Brittany is the trust. That's the only one, and the trust doesn't have any say. It's up to the shareholders. The shareholders say no to Brittany, regardless of what the sports talk radio and the trust say. The shareholders have spoken, and they will repeat. They will say no. So by default, Roger Goodell knows that it's going to go up for sale. The team is going to go up for sale. That could open up a lot of different windows for the NFL. The NFL has their own agenda too.
It's the only logical solution. I mean,
it's not even logical. It's logical that's going to happen, but it's already set in stone. Bolin already inked it in. If they come to no agreement, then the team's going for sale. That's just the way it's going to be. And that's going to be the time the trust is done, 2022.
I was watching the Arizona Cardinals game, and I'm going to continue to go back to this, and I was watching Jacob Phillips wreak havoc, and I was watching other former Bronco players on that Cardinals team that Vance Joseph is stealing off of Denver, a.k.a. Devontae Bosby today. They just stole him off the practice squad.
Oh, my God. 41 is gone?
I told you. See, this is what I'm talking about. Vance Joseph is just sticking it to Elway. I'm sorry. Everybody can say, Vance Joseph was not a great leader of men. Well, because he probably was being hung on a noose like Vic Fangio is. And why do you think Broncos country, why do you think that all the coaches that have great success somewhere else and they come to this clown franchise, why do you think they suck? Oh, it's Vic Fangio.
Vic Fangio is going to be successful when he leaves.
Oh, he will.
A good. I don't know. This may really put a bad taste in Fangio's mouth for head coaching, but this is a strange situation because there's no ownership. No one is going to convince me that John Elway is not the head coach of this football team and GM slash GM.
Oh, and player operations too. He has 3 titles.
Well, I know. Well, the ego is just as big as, bigger than the room. So it's just never going to work out. I can't even imagine Fangio. Well, I guess it's going to be a self-fulfilled prophecy that 2022 comes. It's just
It's blown
boom.
up.
It's blowing up. Yeah.
They have ruined Drew. Okay. They have ruined Drew Lock, like we've both predicted, but they have ruined Drew Lock. They would ruin Justin Herbert. Okay, everybody, I get this a lot. Oh well, Joe Burrow doesn't have the success. Joe Burrow doesn't have the offensive line. He doesn't have as much talent as the Broncos. Are you freaking kidding me? Joe Burrow. Come on, ladies and gentlemen. The Bengals have ownership. They're not the greatest ownership.
Well, Joe Burrow is a better quarterback than Drew Lock. He just is.
I will agree with you.
Yeah, he just is. I mean, I would have taken Joe Burrow too, but unless the Bengals, Joe Burrow is again in a bad situation. His career isn't etched in stone. He's got a lot going against him.
Herbert.
What about that? What about the guy that went to Arizona? I didn't think he stood a prayer of a chance either in the situation he went into, and
look, they got a coach that wanted Kyle Murray. Okay, this is the story about the Cardinals real quick.
No, I'm talking about the other guy that they got before Kyle Murray. Josh Rosen. I predicted he was going to be buried, and that organization was going to bury him alive. Because
look how they turned it around. That's what I'm talking about. Good organizations. The Cardinals, they're not. They have, they've been to a Super Bowl. They're not. I don't want to talk about the Cardinals that much, but they brought in Cleve Kingsbury, who has helped Kyler Murray that fits what his skill set is best at. Okay?
Yes.
They brought in, and come on. Seriously, Vic Fangio, what is his skill set? Defense. He ain't going to help a quarterback.
Well,
what quarterback has he helped?
The idea was always John Elway would be the head coach. Fangio would be the defensive coordinator.
So Pat Shermer's a cute quarterback coach.
Well, I think that's why Scangarello was brought in, because we don't need an offensive coordinator right now. I'm Elway. We'll get a filler, somebody that, because I'll work, and then that's why that whole thing happened.
Oh.
Until somebody becomes available, another name, Shermer, came. Well, how can you lose? It's Shermer, name. It's Shula, name. It's another name. Well, now Shermer can't run the team, so Elway's got to intervene now. Elway's got to once again become the head coach, make the head coaching decisions about. You're going to see. It's going to be interesting to see the direction and the headbutting now between Shermer. I mean, Shermer left the Giants because basically this kind of thing, right? They got fired.
Dave Gettleman is the exact same way as Elway. Dave Gettleman is a clone of Elway.
Yeah. So basically, Shermer's in the same spot. So and then like you said, Locke is caught in the middle of this thing
because they ruined it, man. God, I was so high on. I'm so pissed. They were so high on Locke. I was high on Locke because I watched him play. And I'm not trying to be like a Drew Lock homer, but I saw the talent. I saw the flashes. And I'm like, if he gets the right coach and the right coach to coach him up, and I saw it with Rich Scangarello. I was like, why did you fire him? When they fired Rich Scangarello, I'm like, oh my God. This can either go one or two ways. Drew Lock takes what Rich Scangarello taught him. I was like, no, that doesn't make any sense because Pat Shermer runs a complete different offense. And I'm like, oh my God, they're going to ruin this kid. But I didn't want to admit it because I was so high on Locke. I saw the talent he has, but they ruined him. They've ruined them.
Well, what if Elway was smart? He's not.
He's not.
But if Elway was smart, they would take a page out of the Patriots. When Tom Brady came in and they made him the starter, they had him run basic plays. If you listen to any of the coaches that coached, offensive coordinators, all the coaches that were around Brady at that time, they said, we did not give him the full playbook by any stretch of the imagination. Mm-hmm. They said, we gave him what he could handle. We gave him just small chunks, just small, so that he could get familiar with that, then would give him a little bit more and a little bit more. That's the opposite philosophy that they're doing with Locke. Locke, it's like, here's the whole playbook, just you're going out like you've been doing this all your whole life in the NFL, you know. They're going to have to simplify this for Locke big time. Simplify it for him. They're going to have him not try to take such big steps.
But is that on Locke? Is that on Locke or is that on Shermer?
Well, I went to look at plays. I mean, he had guys open right in front of him that he could have easily thrown the ball to. Mm-hmm. But they're telling him, you got to push, you got to push, you got to push, So
that's already in his head.
It's already in his head. He's already like that. So that, again, I'm going back to Tom Brady, where they said, no, Tom, you got to settle it down. We got to just get you familiar, work you in. Mm-hmm. If, and I don't mind him pushing the ball down once in a while, but, why don't we make this as easy as possible? And I'll have to say this, that the players were just saying that, the Denver Broncos really were running the ball well, and play action should have been easy, and it was. I mean, I saw Judy, like if you go back and look at the video I did, Judy is wide open. He's like this, and Locke just is looking right at him and just will not throw the ball to him. And it's just like,
because he's trying to look for the deep ball.
Looking for deep balls,
That's what I'm talking about.
That order had to come from the top.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I get I think, here's the deal. Locke, he has that gunslinger mentality, but it's already ingrained in his head from Pat Shurmur, John Elway, because John Elway wants him to be the next Patrick Mahomes because Kansas City. Like, seriously, people. Like, exactly. Like, come on. Like, if that was Drew Lock, oh my God. See, this is what I'm talking about. I'm not gonna let Drew Lock off the hook here whatsoever. But what is it like? Everybody's blaming Lock. But who's putting it in his head to throw deep? The whole game.
Well, that's been going on for a while now. That's been going on for a while. I think it's been going on since
week one.
Since week one, yeah. Since week one, I think that's. Again, this has to come to Elway. Elway's going to, being the head coach, he's going to have to settle the playbook. Not just sell the court. He's going to have to settle the playbook down.
Oh, Broncos country. You guys, oh my gosh.
But then, like people had mentioned Pat Shurmur, that when things are working out, why do you get away from it and just start doing all this stuff you ran in practice? It just, willy-nilly,
The identity of this team is Philip Lindsay running the football. That's been the identity since he's been in Denver. That's the identity.
And then play action.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what Rich Scangalero was good at.
Yeah.
The bootleg, play action.
That's why they brought him in.
Exactly. And I thought.
Well, you thought that's why he brought him in, but maybe it was because Elway was the head coach and they were waiting for Shurmur or somebody to lose their job to bring him in and fire Rich Scangalero. And I think Elway always had it in his head that he was going to run this Mike McCoy. One way or another, he was going to shove Mike McCoy down everybody's throat. And now he's shoving it down Locke's throat. Locke, you're going to run these Mike McCoy plays, whether you like it or not.
If you wanted to be the Mike McCoy offensive, why didn't you just bring back Mike McCoy? Yeah. Like, seriously. You had to go get Pat Shurmur.
Get Mike McCoy's clone.
Mike McCoy was out there, but you couldn't go after Mike McCoy.
Oh.
Oh my God! See, this is just hypocritical. Broncos country is brainwashed. I'm sorry. I can't. I'm sorry. I try to be nice to Bronco fans, but there are some Bronco fans well educated, but there's other Bronco fans that just don't blame Elway, and they think he's gone. That's not right. He's bull crap. That's all I have to say about that. That's all I have to say.
But he's going to be choosing the next coach to be hated.
But John Elway, this is his last coach. This is his last coach.
Yeah, this is it.
This is his last coach. He's done after 2 years. I want him gone. He's gonna be gone.
Well, right now, Elway's got a mess on his hands. He's got a mess on his hands again. Once again.
I don't think he realizes it, though. I don't think he cares.
Well, I'm sure he's meddling right now. I'm sure there had to been some fireworks going on at Dove Valley after this one.
Oh, you don't think the players weren't calling out coaches and you don't think that Shelby Harris and Bradley Chubb, who are pissed off on the sideline, weren't calling people out?
Yeah.
And then you have the PR team saying that, oh, Shelby Harris called Vic Fangio and they're good. Shelby Harris this is his last year in Denver. Bradley Chubb is going to be gone. Like, this is ridiculous. And Sports Talk Radio, you push your best player on the team, Von Miller. He's going to go somewhere and succeed and probably win another.
You think
chip.
Von Miller and Chubb talk to each other?
Yes.
I'm just curious. Do you think maybe those two talk to each other?
Yes. Yes.
Garrett Bowles, definitely the new spokesperson for the team.
Oh,
we got the dogs. We got the dogs. He must listen to our podcast. They got rid of all the dogs.
Oh, we were. Oh, exactly. Hey, Garrett Bowles. You're the spokesperson for the Denver Broncos. You know, how about you stop? This year I've been so good. Because we had to sacrifice 4 other offensive linemen for your sorry ass. I'm sick of this. It's old.
It doesn't end, that's for sure. Doesn't end.
Garrett Bowles, man. Mike Munchak. We had to bring in Mike Munchak, who has succeeded in other places. But we had to focus on you because John Elway didn't want to get another first-round pick wrong. Unbelievable. But we had to pass up on Ryan Ramczyk. Who I wanted. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's a circus. It's a circus.
It's like Al Davis with the Raiders, like you said many times.
It looks just, and that was my biggest fear. I said this could either go really great or this could just turn into another Al Davis situation.
And what do you think John Elway's Al Davis moments are, by the way?
Player personnel, running coaches off, running players off. Just meddling.
We become the Raiders. Oh my gosh. We become the Raiders when Al Davis was there. We have become the Browns.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. This is crazy.
You just have to get through these tough times. You have to get through these tough times. You're going to have to wait. You really are going to have to wait till Elway is ejected.
Uh-huh.
It's like ceremonial, and they just say, John, it was great. Ceremonially, shake your hand. Now get out of the building. We got to run a football team here.
And I just want to put this out there. Broncos country, I'm not trying to hate on you. I'm not trying to make you guys feel like crap. I just want the truth to be heard. And I'm tired of seeing this team crumble before our very eyes. We've seen it for 5 years. I'm not trying to bash Broncos country. I'm not trying to bash you. I'm not trying to bash anybody. But when you're a young Denver Broncos fan who has seen the highs when we brought in Peyton Manning, but I never got to see the early Pat Bowlen years when you saw them going to Super Bowls constantly. But I wasn't alive when you saw the first two. I wasn't alive to see that. But I got to see one Super Bowl, and I got to see what Pat Bowlen did for this team and the respectability around the National Football League, and all of that has gone.
That's why you were a Bronco fan.
I was a
That's
Bronco
why you were
fan
a
because
Bronco fan.
I grew up on the tradition of hard work, and that was what Pat Bowlen brought. Pat Bowlen took no crap from anybody. He stuck his head down, went to work every single day.
No ego. No
ego.
Yeah, it wasn't about ego.
Frustrated. It's frustrating. I don't like doing this, but the truth has to be heard. I know I go off rants sometimes, and I know I do that. But we're trying to bring light to the fact that the decisions that Elway has made and the Broncos have made Pat Bowlen's legacy tarnished.
Yeah, Elway has brought the organization back to the Phipps and the Gurkeys. Back in you said the AFL days, the Phipps and the Gurkeys. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
we're in dark times again, unfortunately.
Dark times. So. Dark times. Yeah, it was great to get Bowlen because I wasn't a big Kaiser. I didn't think Kaiser wanted to get the team back, but he's 100 years old. There's no way. There's no way.
No.
Sorry, I've just got caught on something here.
Okay.
So anyway, yeah. So yeah, Elway has actually brought it back to the AFL days. They do look like the 1960s Denver Broncos with the Colorado School of Mine uniforms. You know, the brown and gold.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they're right there.
Yeah, it's frustrating. I got to see the Peyton Manning years, you know, and the Josh McDaniel years. Yeah, they weren't pretty, but I said if we bring in the right people after Josh McDaniels, this thing could work. And I said that to myself. And look what happened. You brought in a Hall of Fame quarterback that Pat Bowlen signed and finished. You brought in really good players, even when Pat Bowlen was still here. You still brought in very good players. Yeah, they probably weren't their best, but they knew how to play football, and they put their heart out on the field. These players don't want to play for these coaches. I'm sorry. They don't want to play for this organization. You see it on a weekly basis. They're just collecting a paycheck.
Yeah, I think the Bowlen's biggest gaffe as a owner, besides this ownership thing, but then again, it's not a gaffe, I guess, because he knows that eventually it's going to go to up for sale, but it's still a gaffe in my opinion. Was hiring of Josh McDaniels. It seemed logical on paper, but I mean, you just got rid of one big ego tripper in Shanahan, and you just got another big ego tripper in McDaniels. Mm-hmm. But
and then he rectified himself by bringing in John Fox, who's not ego driven. He's a player's coach.
No, he's not ego driven. I don't even think whatchamacallit, our current head coach is
Vic Fangio.
Vic Fangio, not Elway. Vic Fangio. Our current head coach. Yeah. I get him confused. Elway or Fangio. But I don't think Fangio has I don't think Fangio has an ego either, really.
But they call him a dictator. I don't see any of that.
Well, yeah, because he holds people accountable. That's not, how dare we? How dare we hold people accountable?
I love coaches that hold players accountable.
But unfortunately, he can't hold anybody on the offense.
Exactly. That's what I was about to say. Yeah.
Because that's Elway's side of the Elway and everybody else's. Vic, you just be a defensive coordinator, okay?
Yeah.
Well, that's and that's not fair to Fangio. Is that well, you want me to be the coordinator and head coach, but yet, I can't say anything, but I can't do anything with the offense here because that's your call.
Yeah.
But I think that's where the disconnect is with Bronco fans. I do not believe that these Bronco fans really understand how Elway is meddling in the offense.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't think they believe it. They think that Elway's just sitting in an office somewhere.
No, he's probably part of the meetings when they do the game plans. Elway wants to run this certain offense, and Scangarello wanted to run this because he knew that the talent gap was so wide. And I think he called him out a few times in those game plan meeting rooms behind closed doors. And
You can't run it. Well, hell, I can't run this. Well, you can see where we are now. You can see where we are now.
Yep.
All right. Are you ready to wrap it up?
Yep. Let's do it.
Yeah. Well, just keep your ears open and we'll keep talking.
Yeah, for sure. Have a good one.
You too. Take care.
Yeah, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.